The Stage One Company is dedicated to reintroducing and revitalizing neglected dramatic works. Mr. Walling is in Portland to direct the production of Romeo and Juliet by the Tygres Heart Shakespeare Company. He was educated at New College at Oxford and Trinity College in Dublin, and is a member of the Directors Guild of Great Britain. In addition to his responsibilities at Stage One, Mr. Walling is a visiting lecturer at the University of London. Jan Powell is the founding artistic director of the Tygres Heart Shakespeare Company, the resident company of the Dolores Winningstad Theatre in our Portland Center for the Performing Arts. A Portland native, Ms. Powell earned her BA at the University of Oregon and an MA at Reed College, and studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London and the Lee Strasberg Theatre Institute in Los Angeles. Ms. Powell has guided the Tygres Heart Company through its first 3 seasons, directing 6 productions herself during that period. And I found out a few minutes ago she joined the City Club about 2 weeks ago. For those of you unfamiliar with Tygres Heart, it is a locally based, non-equity theater company which produces exclusively Shakespearean works. Its productions are all in the Winningstad Theatre, as mentioned. That's the rectangular one in black and red. And the company currently consists of 28 actors. Its third and final play of this season, Romeo and Juliet, directed by Mr. Walling, opens April 16th and closes May 22nd. For our program today, Mr. Walling and Ms. Powell will start with a reading together. Then Mr. Walling will share his perspectives on the role of arts in society, generally, and Ms. Powell will follow with her views on the status of the performing arts in Portland. The two of them will then close with a second reading. Especially under these circumstances of short notice, I ask you to join me in a very warm welcome for Michael Walling and Jan Powell.
I'm going to share the microphone. This is a bit of Richard III. So I need to get my back up.
It's not often we directors get to indulge in a bit of hamminess,
What's happening is Richard of Gloucester, having destroyed both the husband and the father of the husband and the father of Lady Anne, is now trying to wheedle his way into her bosom. Vouchsafe, divine perfection of a woman, of these supposed evils to give me leave by circumstance but to acquit myself.
Vouchsafe diffused infection of a man, for these known evils but to give me leave by circumstance to curse thy cursed self.
Fairer than tongue can name thee. Let me have some patient leisure to excuse myself.
Fouler than heart can think thee, thou canst make no excuse current, but to hang thyself.
By such despair I should accuse myself.
And by despairing shouldst thou stand excused for doing worthy vengeance on thyself, which didst unworthy slaughter upon others.
Say that I slew them not.
Why, then they are not dead. But dead they are, and devilish slave, by thee.
I did not kill your husband.
Why, then he is alive.
Nay, he is dead, and slain by Edward's hand.
In thy foul throat thou liest. Queen Margaret saw thy murderous falcon smoking in his blood, the which thou once didst bend against her breast, but that thy brothers beat aside the point.
I was provoked by her slanderous tongue, which laid their guilt upon my guiltless shoulders.
Thou wast provoked by thy bloody mind, which never dreamt on aught but butcheries. Didst thou not kill this king?
I grant ye.
Dost thou grant me, hedgehog? Then God grant me too. Thou mayst be damned for that wicked deed. Oh, he was gentle, mild, and virtuous.
The better for the King of Heaven that hath him.
He is in heaven, where thou shalt never come.
Let him thank me that ought to send him thither, for he was fitter for that place than earth.
And thou unfit for any place but hell.
Yes, one place else, if you will hear me name it.
Some dungeon.
Your bedchamber.
Ill rest betide the chamber where thou liest.
So will it, madam, till I lie with you.
I hope so.
I know so. But gentle Lady Anne, he that bereft thee, lady, of thy husband, did it to help thee to a better husband.
His better doth not breathe upon me, sir.
He lives that loves thee better than he could.
Name him.
Plantagenet.
Why, that was he.
The self-same name, but one of better nature.
Where is he?
Here. Why dost thou spit on me?
Would it were mortal poison for thy sake.
Never came poison from so sweet a place.
Never hung poison on a fouler toad. Out of my sight, thou dost infect my eyes.
Thine eyes, sweet lady, have infected mine.
Would they were basilisks to strike thee dead.
I would they were, that I might die at once, for now they kill me with a living death. Those eyes of thine from mine have drawn salt tears, shame their aspect with store of childish drops. These eyes, which never shed remorseful tear, no, when my father York and Edward wept to hear the piteous moan that Rutland made when black-faced Clifford shook his sword at him, nor when thy warlike father, like a child, told the sad story of my father's death, and 20 times made pause to sob and weep, that all the standers by had wet their cheeks, my manly eyes did scorn and humble tear. And what these sorrows could not thence exhale, thy beauty hath, and made them blind with weeping. I never sued to friend nor enemy. My tongue could never learn sweet smoothing words, but now thy beauty is proposed my fee. My proud heart sues, and prompts my tongue to speak. Teach not thy lips such scorn. For they were made for kissing, lady, not for such contempt. If thy revengeful heart cannot forgive, lo, here I lend thee this sharp-pointed sword, which if thou please to hide in this true bosom, and let the soul forth that adoreth thee, I lay it naked to the deadly stroke, and humbly beg the death upon my knee. Nay, do not pause, for I did kill King Henry, but 'twas thy beauty set me on. Nay, now dispatch, 'twas I that stabbed young Edward, but 'twas thy heavenly face provoked me. Take up the sword again, or take up me.
Arise, dissembler. Though I wish thy death, I will not be the executioner.
Then bid me kill myself, and I will do it.
I have already.
That was in thy rage. Speak it again, and even with the word, that hand which for thy love did kill thy love, shall for thy love kill a far truer love. To both their deaths wilt thou be accessory.
I would I knew thy heart.
Disfigured in my tongue.
I fear me both are false.
There never was man true.
Well, well, put up your sword.
Say then my peace is made.
That shall you know hereafter.
But shall I live in hope?
All men, I hope, live so.
Vouchsafe to wear this ring.
To take is not to give.
See how my ring encompasseth thy finger. Even so thy breast encloseth my poor heart. Wear both of them, for both of them are thine. Bid me farewell.
'Tis more than you deserve. But since you teach me how to flatter you, imagine I have said farewell already.
Was ever woman in this humour wooed? Was ever woman in this humour won? I'll have her, but I'll not keep her long. After Richard of Gloucester has wooed Lady Anne and discovered that actually she finds him rather charming in his own little way, the first thing that he does is get a score or two of tailors to give him new fashions to adorn his body. I have a certain sympathy with that, having been called out of my technical rehearsal not but 10 minutes ago when I was dressed in my director's battle dress of grey sweatshirt and torn jeans, and had to transform myself to be before you today. I feel I'm becoming perhaps a little bit of a Machiavellian. I've been asked to share my thoughts with you about the role of art within society, and in particular, the way in which Shakespeare can be socially relevant today. It seems to me that there are two very important similarities between the time when Shakespeare was writing and now, which perhaps suggest both why he wrote in the way he did and why it is that his plays can be so important today. One of these is a crisis of identity, which was present at the Renaissance and I think is returning in a slightly different form now. During the Middle Ages, it was very easy to know who you were. Everyone lived in villages and they all lived very close together. Therefore, you took your identity from being a person who lived in the village, and everyone was pretty much the same, because unless you were the priest or the landlord, you were a peasant and just another peasant. Shakespeare's time, the Renaissance, was about urbanization and about a change, therefore, from the identity of one being a member of a community and towards being an individual. People stopped being defined as just one of many and became either the goldsmith, the lockkeeper, the actor, the prostitute, the man from down the road, or someone you had never met before. And in particular, I think the someone you have never met before became very important, because suddenly in a community which was so much bigger, where everyone didn't know everybody else, it became the case that acting suddenly became possible as a way of being, and that people had shifting identities. And I think that's why the 16th century was the century which invented the drama in the way we know it today. It was also the century which invented a great many other ways of expressing the individual as an artistic creation. The portrait was invented at this time, so incidentally was the mirror, the diary, the biography, all of these things which deal with who people are, what their identity is, ways of coping with understanding yourself in a shifting and a changing world. Today, with the takeoff of mass communication and the takeoff of mass transportation, so that it's possible for me, living and working in London, suddenly to arrive in Portland, the moment the immigration service will allow me to direct and fly in 16 hours, for me to phone home and speak to the person as if I'm just down the road. I think the same sort of crisis of identity is happening. Now we've moved not from the village to the town, but from the town to the global village. And once again, that crisis of identity is upon us. And I think that's why Shakespeare's assessment of what it means to be an individual, how you discover your own individuality, is enormously important for us to explore. The second similarity between our two times, I think, relates to that, and is a crisis of spirituality. During the Renaissance, of course, we're also looking at the time of the Reformation, at the time when religion shifted from simple Catholicism in Europe towards a more individually orientated Protestant faith. And again, I think today we're faced with a division between creeds, with a division between many identities on a spiritual level, where there's no longer a certainty that any one religion can hold the society together. And therefore, art, where at least a whole society can come together into a room and look at something and explore itself publicly through that medium, is offered not as a solution, but as a way of exploring that society and of exploring the individuals within the society through a shared and common experience. These seem to me to be not simply luxuries, which one would put on top of other needs more basic, but to be needs which actually are basic. If our society, which clearly has all manner of problems, I refer to ours because I mean Western society, yours as well as mine, if society is to find a way of dealing with those problems, then it needs a focal point where it can think about itself in public. The churches can, to some extent, provide that, but they do not provide a focus which everyone at all levels of society can share. If art can be brought out into the community, and really brought out into the community at all levels, amongst the young, amongst people who do not normally have access to art, and this is where the money comes in, then I think there is a way forward being offered. I don't think this is arrogant for me as a practicing artist to say this, because it's not that Jan and I, standing here reading chunks of Shakespeare, have all the solutions to society's ills. Far from it. But in the same way as the people who provide the society with food have a particular place within that society, so its artists and its craftsmen and its thinkers have a reason for society as a whole to support them, because they are performing a social function as simply as one cog in the machine, but a function which is essential if the society is genuinely to function. My experience over the last few weeks with rehearsing Romeo and Juliet for performance in Portland has brought home several things to me. The first of which is how very relevant Shakespeare's feuding society is to so many aspects of the West, and particularly in our production, where we're looking at racial tensions in the feud which divides the Capulets and the Montagues, so similar to events in Los Angeles last year, so similar to events in Brixton, London, a couple of years before that. It's also a play which deals very profoundly, I think, with the nature of love. Not simply the love between a man and a woman, but also the love within the family and the love between friends. A play which says something about understanding love. And I think that's a value which has to be reasserted in the face of many social crises which we know the West faces today. And it's very interesting, I think, how Juliet, at the crisis of her drama, approaches an understanding of herself when she's to take the drug which will put her to sleep and is absolutely terrified of the prospect of going into the tomb. She turns to her audience and she says, my dismal scene, I needs must act alone. And in that moment, I think, asserts the importance of acting as a means of self-discovery. Thank you very much. Over to Jan.
If more than 10% of the population likes a painting, it should be burned, for it must be bad. So said George Bernard Shaw. However, Shaw also said, without art, the crudeness of reality would make the world unbearable. When I introduce myself and my company, Tygres Heart Shakespeare Company, to new acquaintances, the first question I am inevitably asked is, aren't you in direct competition with the Oregon Shakespeare Festival? And the answer is absolutely not. We are in partnership with OSF, as we are in partnership with the 28 or more other theaters that Portland is blessed with, as we are in partnership with the many, many, many arts organizations that we have in the Portland community. It is a privilege to work in a place like this with an atmosphere of such collaboration, such cooperation. I think it's an atmosphere that's rarely found in other businesses and rarely found in other towns. It may be unique to Portland, but the success of one theater, the success of one arts organization in Portland is a success of all of us. And we have a terrific sharing here of resources, ideas, and people which make this difficult road easier. What I would like to address is the how of the arts in Portland. We know about the what of the economic situation. We have heard again and again and again our message about how difficult it is, how much support is needed, how bad we all are because we don't give and give more and give more and give more. Well, who needs it? The Tygres Heart Shakespeare Company is just 3 years old this year. And we will be concluding our production with a magnificent production of Romeo and Juliet, which will be opening April 16th. We are a resident in the Dolores Winningstad Theatre of the Portland Center for the Performing Arts. If you haven't been in this theater, please go. If you don't want to see our show for some strange reason, come and peek in the door. It's an amazing place. It is unique in the United States in its configuration, and I think it's unique in the world in its color. It's a bright red, modern, experimental, Elizabethan courtyard theater. Now, we reconfigure this theater for every show that we do, and it's a little jewel here in the center of our Portland community. Tygres Heart is unique in its commitment to intimate Shakespeare. We seat roughly 250 in the house because we put the stage in the middle, at the end, on the side, dangling from the catwalk. We have a different number of seats for every show that we do, and if you have a subscription ticket, you never know where the heck you'll be seating because your seat you had last time may not exist, maybe the throne this time. But we keep it intimate. That's a rare opportunity, I think, with Shakespeare, and we are the only company I know of that continues to produce a regular season of Shakespeare in this kind of situation, which allows for such incredible intimacy with these characters and the power and the beauty of this language. We are locally based. We're committed to the idea of the performing arts in service to the community. Our company of 28 actors, they are non-equity. That means they hold down other jobs, all of them, and they come in 5 nights a week for 7 weeks to rehearse. And they create, I think, portraits of great intelligence and depth for what amounts to a mere stipend. And it's their devotion which makes all of this possible. They train together in the summer in a way of speaking this language of Shakespeare in a way that I think is uniquely accessible, exciting, and beautiful to the ear. We have an education program at Tygres Heart where we have workshops in schools, directors in residence. We serve middle and high schools locally and as far away as Richland, Washington. We have a uniquely accessible sign-interpreted performance program in which the signers are costumed and integrated into the action on stage. We have a strong volunteer base of people who come and they can live in Shakespeare's world for a little while. And we have the world's most wonderful, supportive, hard-working board of directors. Life is good. I wouldn't live anywhere else. Now, commercial message over. Let me talk about my theme of competition and partnership. Just as I am passionately devoted to Tygres Heart and what it does, so are the many arts organizations that we are blessed with here. And we enjoy a rare collaboration across the disciplines. And so we are not in competition with each other, nor are we in competition with our social services, our city services, our schools. We are in partnership. I like to say if we could feed, clothe, and house everyone in Portland, it would be a wonderful thing, but it wouldn't be enough. We still have to feed the spirit, the soul, our creativity, our minds. We have to give ourselves as a community a sense of hope. We are human after all, and what a piece of work is man and woman. The arts are the guardian of the spirit, and they are a vital and irreplaceable part of our society. So let's talk about the how of the arts. When we approach individuals and businesses with the idea of support for the arts, I see a look in their eyes, which reminds me of what Woody Allen said, "The lion shall lie down with the lamb, but the lamb won't get much sleep." Don't worry, we'll make this easy, we'll make this fun, and I'll leave the money topic till the last. Okay, what can you do to support the arts in Portland if you believe what we've said about how it is a vital and important part of our community? The first thing you can do, buy tickets. Go. What are you doing this weekend? Pick up the arts and entertainment section and look at the incredible array of rich offerings that we have here. Go to a large organization, the ballet, the symphony, the opera, OSF. Go to a small organization. Go to Hawthorne Street and you will find Stark Raving Theater, Echo Theater. You'll find the Dreadnought Theater and the Howling Frog tucked in corners of this city. Pick up the phone and make reservations for Romeo and Juliet, which will open next week. Go to an art gallery, go to a poetry reading. Of course, you can go to a movie again, and we do want to support our local movie theater owners, but consider that Hollywood is not fiscally challenged. Your arts organizations in Portland are. It's a wonderful way to make a donation. Make a date with your spouse, and I guarantee you will come away with something new to think about, something new to talk about. You will have walked a mile in someone else's shoes. You will have looked into someone else's mirror, and perhaps you will find a bit of yourself there. So if you have gone, if you've done your bit for support and you'd like to do a bit more, what else can you do? Tell your friends. It's a cliche, but it's one of the best things you can do for us. Consider if everyone who has enjoyed a Tygres Heart production gets one of their friends to come to that same production, our houses would be full to overflowing. That would be wonderful. Okay, so you've told your friends you've come to see a show of some kind. What else can you do? You can volunteer your time. Pick up the phone and call that wonderful chamber group you just saw. Tell them you've got one day a month you can give them and ask them what you can do for them. You'll be amazed how much we need you and how much you will directly benefit that organization. Do you have more time? Join a board. Contrary to popular belief, you do not need to have a lot of money or a lot of influence, although it never hurts, but what you really need on a board is enthusiasm, a willingness to roll up your sleeves, and take advantage of the opportunity to help make a dream happen. Okay, what else can you do? You can do it yourself. Take a class in juggling, take a class in dancing, learn to play a recorder, write a poem, have a poetry reading in your living room. Bring art into your life and that of your children. Our future citizens deserve the joy of imagination that the arts can bring and has brought to more recent generations. So unplug the TV, put on the music, and dance in the living room. Then take that child to PSU's Modern Dance series. It's an amazing experience. Once you have done that, what else can I do? You can educate. Our schools are in a crisis of funding. We are reeling from the effective measures 5 and the cuts in the arts budgets, and our town is bursting with excellent, vital, high-quality artists. There's a solution here somewhere. While visiting artists in the school cannot replace regular arts teachers on faculties, we can fill in the gaps. Call us and ask us. There is, in my experience in the workshops, there is nothing to replace that look in the eyes of a kid who has just discovered that Shakespeare's language is a heartbeat, and that heartbeat belongs to a character, and it speeds and it slows depending on what is happening to that character, and that this kid can speak this language, can understand it, and can express something important about himself to people, and people will applaud him for doing it. I think keeping the arts alive in our schools is a vital thing, and until we solve the problem of arts funding in the schools, let's work together toward a solution to utilize the resources that we have right here. Find out about Arts Plan 2000 1 year later. We have some literature on the table back there. The Arts Plan 2000 was a marvelous comprehensive survey of arts in the region, and it is alive and it is working. New resources, creative personnel, new ideas and new solutions to problems are happening. Pick it up, read it, find out what's happening. Also, please learn and understand the real issues regarding the Portland Center for the Performing Arts. We all know there is a funding problem, and the funding support will run out in 2 years. But as I said before, a performing arts center is the heartbeat of a city. If we have a healthy performing arts center, we have healthy arts organizations. The two are in partnership, and you are in partnership with us. So please learn, read the material, call the Metropolitan Arts Commission, get involved, and there is a ballot measure which will appear before you. Please support it, vote for it. Okay, you've done all that, and what else can there be? Make a donation. Here it is. Okay, how much do I give? I often think that people are shy about giving something that they think will be too small. I was talking to Martha Richards at the Shakespeare Festival, and she reminded me of someone who was making a donation of $1 a year. And it came regularly, and it was $1, it was always $1, not a check. It came in the envelope, and 1 year, $2 came in. And there was a little note, and it said, "My SSI check just went up, and I wanted to share it with you." Now, no donation is too small. Anything that you can give will help. If someone gave me $10, I would go buy a pair of tights for Romeo, and it would be well worth it. There is, of course, no donation too large, but we all know that. You might think tickets supply about 60% of a healthy arts organization's budget. Another 40% needs to be supplied by individuals, businesses, foundations, grants. If you buy a ticket, you might just add 40%. If it's a $10 ticket, add an extra $4, and you've taken care of your own cost. If you add an extra $8, you've taken care of the guy next to you. You can tithe. That's a wonderful idea we haven't used yet. But consider what percentage of your income you have to give back to this beautiful community in which we live. Take that percentage and split it into 3 ways. Give 1/3 to a social service agency, 1/3 to your religious organization, 1/3 to your favorite performing arts group. That's a possibility. The point is to give something, whatever, and to give it regularly. Let the organization know they can count on you, and ask of them only that they continue to supply you the best, most high-quality, most thrilling, exciting arts experience that they can, and they will come through for you. If you have a business, if you are employed by a business, consider something through the place where you work. Sponsor the costumes for a production. It will say, costume design supplied by Joe's Plumbing. What a wonderful thing. You can buy an ad in a program. You can use tickets as employee incentives. Buy a pair of tickets, and for a response to productivity, you can give it away as a gift. You can buy a performance. Invite your employees, their spouses, your clients. You can pay back all your obligations in one night and think of the money you will save on lunches. You will also be the most popular person around. So, the ultimate message I have here is, thank you so much for making a city in which these kinds of arts organizations can survive and can thrive in this kind of an atmosphere. And there are very positive ways in which you can help us, in which you can support us. And remember, the first thing we ask you to do is come see what we're doing. Now, Michael will join me for one final bit of Shakespearean indulgence.
Just plunge in. Yeah.
Yes.
Good morrow, Kate. For that's your name, I hear.
Well, have you heard but something hard of hearing? They call me Catherine, that do talk of me.
You lie, in faith. For you are called Plain Kate, and Bonny Kate, and sometimes Kate the Cursed. But Kate, the prettiest Kate in Christendom, Kate of Kate Hall, my super dainty Kate. For dainty are all Kates, and therefore, Kate, take this of me, Kate of my consolation. Hearing thy mildness praised in every town, thy virtue spoke of, and thy beauty sounded, yet not so deeply as to thee belongs, myself am moved to woo thee for a wife.
Moved. In good time, let him that moved you hither remove you hence. I knew you at the first, you were immovable.
Why, what's movable?
A joint stool.
Thou hast hit it, come, sit on me.
Asses are made to bear, and so are you.
Women are made to bear, and so are you.
Ooh, no such jade as me, if me you mean.
Alas, good Kate, I will not burden thee, for knowing thee to be but young and light.
Too light for such a swain as you to catch, and yet as heavy as my weight should be. Oh, well ta'en, and like a buzzard.
Oh, slow-winged turtle, shall a buzzard take thee?
Aye, for a turtle as he takes a buzzard.
Come, you wasp, in faith you are too angry.
If I be waspish, best beware my sting.
My remedy is then to pluck it out.
Aye, if the fool could find it where it lies.
Who knows not where a wasp doth wear his sting? In his tail.
In his tongue.
Whose tongue?
Yours, if you talk of tails, and so farewell.
What, with my tongue in your tail?
Oh!
Nay, come again. Good Kate, I am a gentleman.
That I'll try.
I swear I'll cuff you if you strike again.
So may you lose your arms. If you strike me, you are no gentleman, and if no gentleman, why then no arms.
A herald, Kate? Oh, put me in thy books.
What is your crest? A coxcomb?
A combless cock, so Kate will be my hen.
No, cock of mine, you crow too like a craven.
Nay, come, Kate, come, you must not look so sour.
It is my fashion when I see a crab.
Why, here's no crab, and therefore look not sour.
There is.
Then show it me.
Had I a glass, I would.
What, you mean my face?
Oh, well aimed at such a young one.
Now, by St. George, I'm too young for you.
Yet you are withered.
'Tis with cares.
I care not.
Nay, hear you, Kate. In sooth, you scape not so.
I chafe you if I tarry. Let me go.
No, not a whit. I find you passing gentle. 'Twas told me you were rough and coy and sullen, but now I find report a very liar, for thou art pleasant, gamesome, passing courteous, but slow in speech, yet sweet as springtime flowers. Nor canst not frown, thou canst not look askance, nor bite the lip as angry wenches will, nor hast thou pleasure to be cross in talk, but thou with mildness entertainst thy wooers, with gentle conference, soft and affable. Why does the world report Kate doth limp? Oh, slanderous world! Kate, like the hazel twig, is straight and slender, and as brown in hue as hazelnuts, and sweeter than the kernels. Oh, let me see thee walk. Thou dost not halt.
Go, fool, and whom thou keep'st command.
Did ever Dian so become a grove as Kate this chamber with her princely gate? Oh, be thou Dian, and let her be Kate, and then let Kate be chaste and Dian sportful.
Where did you study all this goodly speech?
It is extempore from my mother wit.
A witty mother, witless else her son.
Am I not wise?
Yes, keep you warm.
Marry, so I mean, sweet Catherine, in thy bed. And therefore, setting all this chat aside, thus in plain terms, your father hath consented, you shall be my wife, your dowry agreed upon, and will you, nill you, I will marry you. Now, Kate, I am a husband for your turn, for by this light, whereby I see thy beauty that doth make me like thee well, thou must be married to no man but me, for I am he, am born to tame you, Kate, and bring you from a wild Kate to a Kate conformable as other household Kates. Here comes your father. Never make denial. I must and will have Catherine to my wife.
Thank you.
Strikes me that I have to go practice law this afternoon somehow. By comparison. Our first question will be asked by Susan Stone.
I wanted to give Jan a little chance here to talk a little more about the partnership with Oregon Shakespeare and why it is a partnership and not a competition, as many people believe.
When we first founded Tygres Heart, I was very cautious about approaching the Oregon Shakespeare Festival because I didn't want to make anyone feel that I was coming in with something that was going to be thought of as competition. What we do is a very different kind of experience. It is so close, it is so small scale, and it is locally produced. I met with Cynthia Furman to let her know we were going to be starting a Shakespeare Festival right next door to them, and her first response was, "How wonderful. I think this will be of interest to our patrons, and your patrons will also come and see what we're doing." And so she set this up right off the bat as something that could be of benefit to both of us. We often call each other. I think I ask them more than they ask of me. But we have shared personnel, we've shared resources, we have shared set pieces. And we also have worked together as resident companies trying to deal with the rental structure in the Performing Arts Center. That has been a real result of a collaboration between the arts organizations, the Performing Arts Center, and the Metro Commission. So they're there for us.
A second question from Susan Maggie of our Arts and Standing Committee.
I'm Linda McGee,
I'm sorry.
City Club member. Thank you, Jan, for filling in so well on short notice. I wanted to talk a little bit more about future audiences and have you follow up on some of your comments. Spiritual nourishment is certainly a wonderful byproduct of the arts that we all know and embrace, but never before has pop culture been so predominant and an overwhelming influence on American life. Arts education is practically phasing out, and ages of audiences are continually growing older. So let's look on the bright side. What are some of the specific things that you can suggest that would excite a 12-year-old boy, a 16-year-old girl, to get them in the door so that they can have the experience that you said they did when they did experience Shakespeare?
We actually have a fair number of things in place. Young Audiences has a program of artists in residences, and they're run through the arts supports a fair amount of activity, not nearly as much as we would like to see. When we go into the schools, we do one-class workshops in which we talk about Shakespeare's language, that heartbeat idea, which kids ranging from 4th grade through college all can understand. And it helps them to feel a kind of ownership of this often difficult language which they've got to encounter in school, and which is something that an educated person in our society needs to know. What I would like to see are some creative solutions, possibly private funding for an overall arts program for the schools. As I say, we do have these resources in the arts organizations that already exist, and we have schools that are crying for these kinds of arts experiences. I just did a workshop in Richland, Washington, in which the teacher made her own application to the Washington Council for the Humanities to bring me up there to talk to some 800 8th graders that they had up there in a series of classes. But these teachers are doing these kinds of grants and fundraising on their own. And what I would like to see happen is, as a city, as a region, if we can address this problem and at least straddle the gap until we can get arts education firmly back in our curriculum.
We'll now open up for questions from the audience. If any of you have written questions, hold them up and our staff will collect them. Please identify yourself before you pose your question, please.
Andrew Wheeler. Mr. Walling, I would like you to compare your company, Stage 1, with Tygres Heart and the Oregon Shakespeare. And I note, too, and maybe this deserves some comment, Richard in Ashland is done in kind of motorcycle outfits or almost skinhead with black and silver. And I wonder how it's going to be done here, if that's going to be in the Shakespearean costume. Those two questions, perhaps.
Right. There are many differences between the company which I run in England and Tygres Heart. First of all, because the structure of the performing arts and theatre in particular in England is very different, although again it's woefully underfunded. But we're very lucky in England in that the pool of actors, because they are primarily London-based, is accessible to everybody. And so we're using actors who are also seen in television and film, and those industries to some considerable extent subsidize their work in the theatre. So it isn't the case, as in Portland, that the bulk of theatre actors are having to hold down jobs as barmen or some other thing which they really do not want to dedicate their lives to support their art. And that's an advantage. The disadvantage, which we have by comparison with Tygres Heart, is we do not have a theatre where we are resident. And in particular, we don't have a space, even one which we can hire in London, which is in any way comparable with the Winningstad. You have a most wonderful facility in that space in this city. I don't think you know how lucky you are. I mean, it's in the world, it's one of the most progressive pieces of theatre architecture I've seen. As far as goes your second question, I'm a little flummoxed because, of course, any costume is Shakespearean costume. It's not the case to say that because something is set in the 16th century, it's Shakespearean. Because, of course, Shakespeare, when he wrote Julius Caesar or Coriolanus, performed it in modern dress. A play is written for a society and is presented for a society. I haven't seen the particular production in Ashland which you ask about. The reports I hear are very good. But last time I was here, I did do a production of The Two Gentlemen of Verona, which was set in contemporary costume in contemporary America, and about which very nice things were said. And in that production, I don't think we strayed from the intention of the original text, which was to address the nature of young love amongst an aristocratic group of people. I hope, in many ways, we actually brought that closer to its audience, to the Portland audience, by setting it amongst the youthful, new rich of West Coast USA. In the case of Romeo and Juliet, I've actually set it in Renaissance Spain, which isn't precisely where a conventional production would be set, but is perhaps a little closer than, say, downtown LA. And you will have to come and see it and decide whether you consider that suitably traditional or not.
Bill Crane, City Club member. Jan, as I look over the audience here in City Club, we're about 175 people, only 4 of which are from the community of color. And the circumstances of today's presentation, which you and your guest have done so elegantly, came about because the woman who changed racist policies of presenting halls in this country died yesterday. The great diva who finally, years later, walked across the stage of Constitution Hall. Our very white audience today for an art topic matches very typically the audiences of orthodox arts presenting agencies in Portland. Is that right? What can we do? How do we get out there? How does that happen? What is Tygres Heart doing? There you are.
How much time do I have? That's a wonderful and very relevant question. The Romeo and Juliet we're doing now does have racial conflict, and we do have actors of color in leading roles. In our company, we work very hard to have a diversity of cultural backgrounds in our performers, in our staff, and we are doing our best to reach out to audiences of color and help create that base of support. It is very difficult. I think there is an impression that may be mistaken that most of the arts organizations are white and that we don't have a lot of different kinds of organizations. I had a wonderful conversation with Sue Busby at the IFCC, the Intercultural Firehouse Center, which focuses on plays of diverse kinds of cultures. And she says, you would not believe the different kinds of theaters we have. We have a Filipino theater. We, of course, have the Hispanic theater, the Miracle Theater Company. We have the Portland Black Repertory, which last year made a wonderful effort to become a fully professional theater. They had some difficulty with supporting that level of funding. They've gone back to the table to talk about it, but I know that they will be back. There is Asian theater, there is deaf theater. We have the Northwest Theater of the Deaf. So we have quite a diversity of organizations here. The problem, I think, is visibility. And that perhaps we focus a great deal on our larger arts organizations when actually if those of us who do see more mainstream kinds of theater can make the effort to discover this diversity of performing arts groups and go to them, see what they're doing, buy their tickets, talk to them, help give them the kind of support which then will turn around into higher visibility and greater integration. I think we all would be better served. We come back to the question of education. Some of the private funding we have had has been specifically targeted toward increasing our audiences in school kids of cultural minority. We are working to do that. The money is so very, very, very small that it's difficult. But I do think that the schools are the key. If we can get into the schools and do workshops, do smaller presentations, and then bring them into the theaters to give them the lights, the costumes, the colors, the music, the dance, we're going to make that a part of their life, and we're going to develop that healthy habit throughout our community.
Could I just add one thing to that?
Sure.
Which is to say that there can be a bit of danger in this sort of discussion, that it sounds like we've got something very good and we're going to take it out to all the black people. This actually is not the case, and it's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the function of theatre for the community as a whole, as a focus. And to see an integrated cast and an integrated audience not only becomes we got something very good and we can give it to the black people, but it also becomes, oh good, now we white people can share the experience with them and can be aware that as we sit in the theatre with an audience which has been expanded to bring in all the ethnic groupings from a society, that here are we listening to these words, like when Juliet says, "Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face," and being aware that the man 2 rows down from you, who is also black, as is the actress playing Juliet, is hearing those words as well. And suddenly that experience of being a community, sitting together, thinking about yourselves in public, cannot, I think, but have a productive effect.
Lee Stevenson, City Club member. I'd like to have each of you address the role of public funding of the arts. I guess my perception is that we tend to evaluate artistic standards by a European model, but in this country we don't come anywhere near funding on the same basis. And if you could each tell us what is the appropriate role of public funding and support of the arts.
I could take.
Do you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. I think that in Portland particularly, we have not a history of philanthropy. And as I said before, the healthy habit of giving is not something that's widely shared in our community. I think that the role of government funding is whatever we want it to be. We happen to have a Metropolitan Arts Commission and an Oregon Arts Commission, which are very active in helping to support the organizations by helping them with information, helping them find sources of funding. We would not be here, particularly without the MAC Commission. But they also function, I think, as information gatherers and disseminators. Their role, I think, is to facilitate the desire of the community to support the arts and to help that support come from private funding. I suspect if we had fully government-funded art, we might have very dull and non-diverse kinds of art. The funding levels are very, very low. It's a tiny fraction of what we make, but it is much appreciated. Having their name on our productions gives us a legitimacy and gives us a contact through which people know that this is an organization that has been looked at by our government agency, has been found to be vital, exciting, a worthwhile contribution to our community, and therefore is one which the community at large can support.
I'm not going to agree with that completely.
Good.
Because I come from a country where we have had, as the questioner said, for a long time, quite a good system for the public funding of the arts in the Arts Council of Great Britain, which was set up shortly after the Second World War by the Attlee government, the socialist government. And that organization has recently been under attack from a government which I think does believe that there is too much artistic activity going on in the country and that it breeds all sorts of subversion. And they are trying to encourage us towards a more American model where we turn and rely on private funding. Now, I do not want to decry private funding in any way because it is vital. My company has depended on it not only for the top-up, but actually at times for its very survival. And I know that all arts organizations in the United States depend pretty much entirely on private funding, and very important it is too. But I do think that there can be a danger then if you are dependent on private individuals or on corporations who can withdraw their support at very short notice, that the art will not be independent and will begin to be consumer-led rather than artist-led, and will therefore not fully explore things, will not push things as far as they might go, will not be brave. And if one really wants an artistic community which will operate and be exciting and dynamic within the community, even if it's at times a little controversial, and I think that has to be what the role of art is, then I think there is actually no substitute for proper government funding, and I mean by that government funding which is not politically led, but which is set up by a quango. That you don't have at all yet in this country, but I would strongly recommend that you work towards it and that in my country we try to bring it back.
We have time for just one last question. A note was sent in, Jan, asking you to comment on other ways you introduce students to Shakespeare, abridged matinees.
I'm sorry.
Abridged matinees?
We do have a family matinee that we do, which is a 90-minute version of the play. It has all the original language, the costumes, the lights, and it has a narrator to bridge the gaps in the action. We have families who come and bring children as they go all the way down. I think it's probably most appropriate for kids ages 5 and up. And we've been doing this for all of our productions. We now have a coterie of small children who can play Macbeth with each other instead of Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's been not much. It's been very exciting though as a family activity, as a way to introduce children to this great literature and to give them a little glimpse of the theater. They can talk to the actors afterwards and pick up a sword and look at the makeup. And I think more of these kinds of activities, which are small scale, low price, and open to families and a kind of casual atmosphere, will help break down that barrier of the arts being somehow elitist.
We have to close. We have a marvelous theater we've heard about. We also have some marvelous people. Our own Jan obviously is one of them. Michael, we appreciate you being here as well. Let's thank them again, and we're adjourned.